Hello, guys. This is Gary. I'm just talking about this episode of Unemployed Commentators. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues. We're trying to get the episode that will come out, but it is also about the Denver Broncos. Last weekend, I was able to enjoy my family and my birthday, and that's why no podcast was out. So that's kudos to our co-host, man. As much as I love putting this podcast every weekend, family comes first for me, and hopefully it does for you guys too. Without being too wordy, man, please enjoy this short podcast, a little different. Me and G Baby, we're gonna be back at it again, talking about upcoming fights and launching our Icon series. So our Icon series will be in line with what we do on our podcast. That's classic sports and comedy, but we're going to be talking about some classic sports heroes that we grew up with, and even our parents and grandparents grew up with, and how they really changed not only sports but our culture, both in America and worldwide. And we're both excited to start doing that. So thank you guys for listening and supporting Best Worst Cantina and also Unemployed Commentators. Please visit us online at bestworstcantina.com. We will also have a segment now too where you guys can call in and ask us questions, give us suggestions, stuff like that. We love to hear from you guys. So thank you so much. Episode of Unemployed Commentators. As you guys heard in the intro, this is a little bit different episode. Keep it short and sweet. I think as a Denver Broncos fan, what happened this past weekend was kind of absurd, to put it bluntly. I honestly haven't been watching a lot of NFL this year. I think it was like watching baseball back in the summer when there's just no fans and just the atmosphere is just not there. But for whatever reason, college football, the energy just still feels there for me. But man, I mean, it was just, how can you, even as a business, put out a product like that? I mean, so if you guys didn't know, I mean, the Broncos had 3 quarterbacks out with quarantining, and they had to go with an undrafted wide receiver, Kevin Hinton, which I think that's a dream come true, and I think that's freaking awesome that he was able to pull that off. And I think it would have made if that guy would have won, we would have had a movie made about it. But I think what's on my mind, this has just been glaring, I think, this year with COVID-19 and restrictions. I mean, everybody, we've had to deal with COVID-19. We've had to deal with everything at work and in our daily lives. But I think what people are upset with, and I think what I'm upset with, is just the blatant hypocrisy and how we handle it for different people. I mean, why I bring up when I'm talking on this podcast about the Denver Broncos versus New Orleans Saints game. In the grand scheme of it, a football game always ultimately not important. It's a fun sport. But when you are able to move the schedule for various other teams, such as, the Patriots earlier in the year, or even this week, the Steelers and Ravens, I think it just blatantly shows you don't give a fuck as a commissioner. I think that's been Roger Goodell's MO the whole time he's been in charge. I mean, I think a lot of people have seen his hypocrisy and his management of various different teams and different transgressions have been wildly different. And I think this is something where you obviously have to say, like, okay, follow the money. It's a primetime game between the Steelers and the Ravens. Both teams are winning records, same division. It's always a good game. And the Broncos and Saints, most people probably don't give a fuck, right? But when you're talking about integrity of a football game, and again, I'm just a guy. When you're talking about integrity of a football game, who the fuck wants to watch an undrafted wide receiver? I mean, the only reason we really want to watch is to see if this guy could pull it out. I mean, it's a shit product. I mean, if you had
if you were shooting, okay, let's put it this way. The best way I think I can understand it, or at least explain it, if you're putting out a product, right? Like you have a Wolverine movie, and you don't have Hugh Jackman for this Wolverine movie. Like, okay, do we have Tom Hardy as a replacement, the backup? Oh no, we don't have him. Okay, do we have I don't know, Scott Eastwood backup? No, we don't have him. Who do we have? We have one of the guys from Big Bang Theory. I don't want to watch that. Oh, too bad. It's coming out. Paid for it or not, I don't give a shit. That's just kind of what it feels like. I wish I had my buddy Gian here to talk about it. I'm sure we'll dig it up in the next podcast. Because I think for the past 2 to 3 podcasts, I've just talked about COVID-19. I'm sure like everybody else is sick of it. But that was just so egregious. I don't know how. I mean, they got without putting it bluntly, they got fucked, man. And it happened. It could not have happened. Like Denver, I think the city of Denver, Thanksgiving, when your mayor tweets out, don't gather with your family, don't leave the state, and then he fucking leaves, and then the NFL dicks your team too. I think the city of Denver just feels a little frustrated at any authority figures. I know I'm speaking on behalf of my city, but there wasn't a lot of joy last week. But I will say this, I want to round up the podcast. Last week celebrated my birthday. On Wednesday we didn't have a podcast. Also worked on my birthday, but I had a lot of well wishes and love from people, and I really want to thank you guys for that, including Gian, big Gio. So my buddy G Baby, dude, I want to give a shout out to him, my co-host, giving me a lot of love last week on my birthday, letting us float a week so I could enjoy my family. Man, that's huge. So this is what you don't get with a lot of coworkers and people who actually give a fuck about you. So shout out to G Baby on that, man.